like to welcome everyone to the 131st meeting of the 7th Council of the Municipality of South Dundas on October the 11th, and sorry for the small 6-minute delay. This is technically our last official business meeting. There is some business to deal with, but with the election in less than 2 weeks, we wish all the candidates the best of luck. Confirmation of agenda. Any additions, deletions, or amendments tonight, Madam Clerk?
There are 3 amendments, Mr. Mayor. The delegation from Food Cycler has been deferred to a future meeting. We have an addition under the consent agenda, which are the October 6th Iroquois Waterfront Committee meeting minutes. And under discussion, an addition for a request for compensation for soybean damage.
Okay, any additions, deletions, or amendments for any members of council? See none. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof? The adoption of minutes of the September 26, 2022 regular meeting, please.
Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Mellon, that the minutes of the 130th regular meeting of council be adopted as circulated.
Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. I will say one thing that I am a bit disappointed, as much as it wasn't, I wasn't maybe the biggest fan of the Food Cycler pilot project overview. It would have been nice something that this council started and at least had a review of that. So we will pass it on and see how it goes. Everybody wanted to save landfill space, so that should be a easy one to deal with next term. Action requests. First one, PE 2022-31, acceptance of the Recreation Master Plan Report.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that council accept report PE 2022-31 to approve the Parks and Recreation Master Plan as prepared by Monteith Brown Planning Consultants.
David, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So in front of you tonight is hopefully the final go around with the Parks and Rec Master Plan. As we finished up, I believe about a month ago when Monteith Brown was here, it gave Council a last opportunity to provide some comments on the report. There was one slight modification made between now and then, and that's from South Dundas Soccer provided us with their actuals for this year for registrants. So that was just a small little update in the plan, but other than that, it was as reported last time. So this is just the final step for council to adopt it and to put it back into staff's court and out of the consultants for us to start implementing. So if you guys have any questions, I'll answer them now.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Gardner.
Thanks, Mayor. Throughout this process, I think our last meeting, I had asked David just for staff's perspective. So I know that it's on the table for acceptance tonight. I will accept, and before you jump in, Mr. Mayor, I know I can't do a split vote, but I want to explain that I'm not going to accept the report as it's submitted just because I felt that the process was flawed, but I will accept the portion that the staff has accepted and wanted to take on. So today, when I vote no to the acceptance, it's not to the staff work, it's just to the general, my general feeling of the process with the consultants.
Okay. Councilor Lewis?
No, I have no questions on it.
Councilor Mellon?
No, it's a good working document. It's a start.
I have no questions, Mayor.
Oh, so comes back to me. No. So I guess I'll start my discussion with, or speech with saying that this was something that I had desired when I ran 4 years ago. I think that something we needed to do. Our old one was antique, wasn't even old anymore because it was done before I even started on council in 2005. So we needed to update what we had to do. I think it's a bit challenged. I think part of the problem was that we just didn't get the participation that we needed from the public to get a very good, thorough report. And I'm disappointed in that, and I'm not disappointed generally in all the public, but, you know, we tried. It was COVID, it was challenging. Do I feel we have enough people or enough input from the people of South Dundas to make this a really good report? I'd say probably not quite where I'd like to see it. I think, you know, staff certainly did their job to present to the public and to council as best they could what we had. Is it a good start? I'd say it's a good start. I know that there was still a lot of discussion at the so-called debate in Matilda about a multi-purpose recreational facility, and I'm not saying no to that. I think that's something that South Dundas should at least have the goal to achieve someday. The challenge is it is someday. We have many, many, many other things that we have to deal with. I think the best thing to do is get something on paper, figure out where you want to do it, how you want to do it. Maybe not spend a significant amount of time on it yet, but at least get the basis started at what people want to do. It's somewhat in there. I'm not saying there's not, but I think your biggest challenge is where you're going to put it. I think that's the biggest challenge in South Dundas is that you have your largest village being Morrisburg on the south side, away from the corners of Pleasant Valley and Grantley, and that's a challenge to those corners, even if they go other directions. Should we partner with another municipality on one? Maybe that's a goal we should do. I don't know. Then it lands up in the middle of nowhere, and that's a challenge. However, if we ever get water to go to Winchester Springs and Winchester and beyond, then you might have at least half what you need up that way. I think it's got enough good bases that we can work with it. I think the next council can certainly review it. If they feel they need to massage it, I think that's not a bad thing. Do I feel, you know, as much as we did make our consultants work, the price tag of $75,000 doesn't give me a $75,000 project. Even if they had to come back 5 times, it doesn't matter. It's not quite there. Half that, maybe 50 grand. Maybe I'm out, maybe, but I wish you just had a little bit more to it. As I said, I think, you know, David and the rest of the staff certainly worked hard on getting to where we are right now. But I will leave it in the hands of the next council to see if they could, as I said, massage it, make it work better for South Dundas. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll hear the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Thank you, David. Next one, CAO 2022-12, acceptance of the water and wastewater study final report.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Wells, that Council accept report CAO 2022-12 and approve the water and wastewater rate study final report as presented by DFA Infrastructure International Incorporated at the Committee of the Whole meeting held on September 21, 2022.
Thank you, Mayor and
Shannon,
Council.
welcome.
So, as the clerk alluded to, back on September 21st, Derek from DFA did a thorough presentation to Council on the water service delivery review. What it did was look at a 10 to 20 year projection on where rates need to be, not only to fund current infrastructure, but future infrastructure. It outlined a 4% increase across the board, but also offered different variables depending on funding opportunities as well as development growth in South Dundas. So what we're looking for tonight is for Council to accept the study and use that as a guiding document for future budgets, future planning. So if Council has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any.
Okay, Councillor Wells?
No, I went through the report. I wasn't here for the initial delegation and whatever, but I watched the meeting. It's a start where whoever's gonna be here in the future, it's something to go back. We don't have to follow this word by word. It's just, it gives us a base that we can, or whoever can make decisions on moving forward. So I have no problem accepting this report.
Council Mellon?
Yeah, it's a worthwhile report simply because we need to take into consideration everything that's going to be needed for our water and wastewater infrastructure, I guess, if you will. And make sure that there are some funds there, because I think coming down the road, there won't be a big pocket of money like there was for Iroquois that was built basically without our financial input, which we are extremely lucky and grateful for. But I can see the day coming when that won't be there unless we have a certain amount of money, and what that amount will be in the future, 50% or whatever. I don't know if 100% is ever achievable in a small community like ourselves, but this gives us something to aim for future councils and to take into consideration to try and make sure that there's enough money in there to build on.
Council Lewis?
No, it's a good report. We had a good discussion. I know whenever we had the discussion, I kind of scratched my head a little bit, but whenever I went home and got thinking about it, yeah, we got to start putting money away, because eventually equipment's going to start wearing out, and they're big ticket items. There's no doubt about that, and everybody in this room knows it. Like, I'm not saying the citizens of Morrisburg or Iroquois really realize what is involved in a water plant and a wastewater plant. So I'm happy with it, and it is a start for generations of council going down the road.
Mayor?
Thanks, Mayor. I thought, reports like this, I really like the information contained. Yes, there's some numbers that are scary, but it's a realistic report, and I think that it sets up the next council to not have to wait for the report. They'll be able to make some decisions in their term, and I think that's an important part of the process. So I think it was well done, and I think that is the reality of sitting in these chairs, is sometimes you have the realities that can outweigh what, the sunshine and lollipops that people would prefer to make decisions on, right? So, yep, I think it's a good document.
And I do agree with council. I think the document certainly shows that there's some need for some significant future planning in the water, wastewater side of what we do in South Dundas. I did have a question from someone concerning the debt and what happens after that. I thought everything would be good after 2028, and I said, well, that's about the time you need to start replacing all the stuff that's going to start breaking, so you need to put that money aside. And I kind of equated it to, buying a brand new house. You got, a number of years before, 15, 20 maybe, and then you got to deal with the roof, and you got to deal with the hot water heater. You got to deal with this. And that's not making things pretty, that's just in the furnace. All these things will start breaking, and we haven't got there yet, and we need to be there. Is 4% the right number? It's probably a manageable number at this time, but I wouldn't commit any council to thinking 4% is going to be a forever number here, because we've had to put rates up higher than that. And it's a struggle, but the system must be paid for itself. Are there efficiencies? I don't know, but I'll leave it up to staff and next council to think things through and see if there are any more. But as I said, a good document, a good way to set things at least in a stead for the next council, that they know that this is what they got to deal with. And as as Deputy Mayor said, it's no unicorns, lollipops, and balloons here. It is hitting the road hard. And for $25,000, I think we got our money's worth on that, just saying. Anything further from any member of council? Seeing none, all heard in motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. In the bylaws, first bylaw is the 2022-122 electronic monitoring policy.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2022-122, being a bylaw to adopt policy number 1-19, electronic monitoring policy, be read in open council, passed, signed, and sealed. Sure. Yes, I'll speak to it. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So earlier this year, Bill 88 was enacted, which amended the Employment Standards Act. So it now requires employers with over 25 employees to have a written electronic monitoring policy in place by this month of 2022. So the intent of the policy is essentially to inform all employees of how, when, and why they are being monitored. So nothing in this policy, I might add, will be shocking to any staff. They are well aware this policy essentially documents all the various avenues in which the employer is monitoring the policies as per the legislation. The policy itself will probably be familiar to the mayor and deputy mayor, as a similar policy was adopted by the county and all the respective local municipalities. So essentially, the main points of the policy include a statement of, as I said, why, how, and when we are monitoring policies. And upon provision and approval of this, it will be shared with all staff.
Okay, comments, questions, concerns, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, so I asked the same question at counties.
Yeah.
Does this match the HR stuff? So if, say, there was a staff member that was speeding, and then do we have it in our policy that if the staff member is found to be speeding X number of kilometers over the limit, like what, do we match it up? Because a lot of times in these policies, the last 4 years, we'll discuss it, but then there's, let's just say, some wiggle room. And it just, sometimes there's holes in it that, you know, and I'm not saying our staff are speeding. I'm just saying that in past experience at the provincial level, sometimes you can have a policy, but if the dots are not connected, it's kind of a useless policy. So
Sure. So through the mayor, so ultimately the only two policies that we actually have on record are the cell phone policy and the video surveillance. So we are actually lacking in some areas of the policy. So what this proved is we actually have some work to do with respect to a GPS policy, use of vehicles. So what we can use is this as kind of the template to mold the other policies going forward.
perfect, because that's what will happen, right?
Yeah.
Something will happen, you refer back to the policy, and then we go, oh darn, there wasn't enough. And it's nicer to have it proactively put in place, so it doesn't seem like one person got away with and now everyone's like heavy-handed. It's just better for culture in a employment situation to just have it kind of nailed out before you.
Yes.
So that would, yeah. So that's good news, because that's where we fall short with this. It's we do it, but we didn't do enough. So okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councilor Lewis, any?
No.
Councilor Mallon?
The only question I have, Mayor Byvells, is when this is given to our employees, Section 6, employee obligation, all employees are expected to read this policy, understand the context of the policy. Will they be required to sign off a waiver form that they have received it and they have read it? I didn't see it in there, but maybe it is, but I didn't see it in the report.
No, and you're right, Councillor Mellon, there was no waiver, but that's something we are working on from an HR perspective to annually include this along with the various other policies to actually ensure staff have ample time to review and to sign off on all the required annual policies.
Yeah, because, let's face it, oh, I didn't see it, or I didn't read it, or I
Yes.
didn't understand it, so make sure that they have read it and understand it and then sign off on it. If that's going to be included, that's, I think, important.
Councilor Wells?
And actually, I got to echo that because all our policies, regardless, every every employee should read everything and should be on file, that everyone signs off. And it's just like with me, with all my policies I have for my construction thing. They're read, they're signed off, so if anything ever happens down the road, you get in an accident or something, I didn't realize this, it's signed off, and, well, it's gotta be signed off. Like, you can't, there's just no two ways about it. Like, any policy to do with municipality has to be read, signed off, and put in a file.
Okay. There's nothing further. All heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. General consent.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that all items listed under general consent section of the agenda be adopted as presented.
In the consent agenda today, we have a key information report on the fleet repairs. We have a key information report on the backyard chicken pilot project update, which will be delayed due to the possibility of avian flu coming back this fall. We have a key information report from Treasury concerning the September 2022 budget to actuals, which are fairly good, not perfect, but fairly good. Still 3 months to go, and you have the minutes from the Erico Waterfront Advisory Committee. All heard in motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Okay, boards, committees, discussion items. There was no county council. We did have a meeting today, but it was all in camera concerning staff and personnel. Cemetery board,
No meeting, Mayor.
Erico District Business Group, there was no meeting, but I did give Candace her Community Builder Award, and she was pleased with that. Motion BA,
They, excuse me, they are having a meeting right now, but I had to come here, so I couldn't attend it.
okay. It's good to hit that they're having a meeting. South Nation Conservation Authority, you have the floor, and we have lots of time.
Oh, boy. That's
I'm not
amazing.
feeling like I'm rushed tonight, Councillor Mellon, so.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Byveld. Yes, we did have a meeting, and last, I don't know when it was, not last week, maybe it was last week, I forgot. The board approved the application, the submission into, for grant money for restoration of 2 creeks that they asked a letter of support from South Dundas. So we approved that, and that'll be sent in, and hopefully they'll get approval for the 2 creeks and another park that they'll be using that money towards. The fee schedule was presented, basically a draft of it. Basically, it'll be about a 2% increase on the fee schedule. Fee schedule is supposed to be cost recovery. I question whether or not 2% with cost of living at 7.5 or whatever it is today. I suggested maybe 4% is more in line to make sure that it is cost recovery, that there's no impact or no pressure on, well, they don't take the money from the levy, but staff assured us that 2% is adequate because most of them are smaller, easier applications. The larger, more complicated applications, they will be probably going up, those will be going up more than 2% because they take more staff time and whatnot. So it is a, I don't want to put pressure on anybody that's, getting an application, but we got to make sure it's cost recovery and there's no impact from the levy. But so it'll probably be going up approximately 2%. We haven't got a new, well, they're still looking for a new general manager. There's nothing new on that front. The one thing that I argued with was the levy and budget schedule. Right now, in October 20th meeting, there'll be a levy discussion and direction from the existing board. November 17th, which I argued vigorously that the new council will be sworn in on the 14th or 15th or whatever date it is. 15th?
It will be sworn in officially the Monday after, right? So there's a
Yeah.
period of time, but
Yeah.
what are you on the 17th?
Well, I don't know.
I'm just asking, did Angela's not there to ask the question anymore, but
Yeah, like, I mean, that's the trouble, there's two of us that aren't running, so John Hunter and myself aren't running, so we're not going, we're not gonna be there. So, I guess, I'll still be going to the November meeting as a representative of South Dundas, which I feel very uncomfortable about because I'm not an elected official. Unless something can be done from the time of the election to, well, no, you gotta be sworn in first, so, yeah.
So I have a semi-solution, but I'm gonna give your problem to somebody else. I think, Madam Clerk, can you look into the legalities of what this is gonna entail?
Sure.
Will he still have his position? If he does, then so be it.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, then,
Somebody else is gonna have to go, or nobody's gonna be there.
well, nobody's gonna be there, because
Yeah.
there won't be a new council swear in until the Monday after. That's the tentative date right now, unless there's an emergency, and then, of course, you swear them in and do whatever you need to do.
So that November 17th, it'll be the first draft of the budget, and it'll be circulated to the municipalities. That's something I pressed for, and so that'll be the first draft on the 17th of November. Who's going to be there from South Dundas, or for that matter, maybe some of the other municipalities. December 18th or 16th is the next meeting, and that'll be the second draft of the budget. That will give, I guess, the new term of council a little bit of time to get somebody in place to be there. And then January 19th, they're saying would be the final approval of the budget and levy. I pushed vigorously to push everything back by at least a month, that the final approval of the budget wouldn't be till in February. I made the example that, and you brought it up, Mayor Bybel, as you know, the counties they're doing theirs in February. I said, I won't be here. John Hunter, he's not running, and who on the board will be there? The city of Ottawa, they're not going to be appointing it'll be sometime, I think, in February before they make official who they're appointing. It's not the perfect way in my mind. It should have all been pushed back. They made the argument that they're using the experience of the existing board to sort of direct the budget. And I told them that I was very uncomfortable and didn't like the idea that I would maybe be part of a budget that I'm not going to be on the board and responsible for, but I was the lone dissenting voice, I guess, and that's the schedule right now. So it does give the new council of South Dundas time in December, from November 17th or 14th or whenever the new council's sworn in, to have somebody in place, and excuse me, they'll have the budget, the draft of the budget will be circulated, and it'll be out to the municipalities, but it doesn't give, somebody's gonna have a lot of light reading in a very short period of time, a lot of work load there to get up to speed. I still think it should have been pushed back, but it isn't, in the final approval would be January. So that's, I guess, the long and the short is my South Nation report. My last one, hopefully, unless I'm here in November. Well, I won't be here in December, so. Oh, I'll come to a special council meeting just yet. Yeah. No,
You can be the delegate. You can be like Bill Smurl going to
Yeah.
Dundas and telling
Yeah.
him what's going on.
we'll mail that one in.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
I was just going to say, to answer your question, so all committee appointments, whether it's a member of the public or a member of council, end on the last term of this council. So your appointment to the South Nation would end on November 14th officially.
Okay, I'll let them know that, and
You think
I don't know
they
what I don't know what's gonna happen there.
Yeah.
Well, you won't have to feel guilty if they screw it up. How's that?
Yeah, but
It's not your fault.
I don't like the whole damn thing, the way they're doing it, but anyways, yeah. And if everybody else, all municipalities and townships have to follow that same policy,
Yeah.
well, that's gonna be something I'm gonna bring up in October meeting. I should have maybe had that information beforehand, and I won't be on the committee even if I was to show up in November. And who's gonna be there anyways, yeah.
So my suggestion to you is that they need to alter their dates for November, because they don't allow that time for for appointments to boards and committees, especially for those who are no longer for sure there.
Yeah.
You are one, John Hunter's one, there'll be more that
There'll
will
be-
not
yeah.
make it, I will guarantee you that, because that's life. Bill Smurl's the question mark, because you're supposed to have a municipal councilor at it, and he's not.
You know, well, they gotta get approval from the ministry for, they're allowed one or two, aren't they? But they have to have,
Only the city, I think, is gonna finagle that one, I don't know if.
because they, right now, the city has,
Winchester or North Dundas.
I
can
guess
do it.
they had to, one of the board directors passed away, so they had to, there weren't elected officials from the city.
Yeah, I know. They always have.
I will bring that up at the October meeting and, you know, say, look, you might not have quorum, they might not have quorum. If everybody is, you know, if that's a policy across from the province, they might not have quorum to, you know.
Guess
The
I'll-
chair is running, he's not opposed, so he's gonna be there, but the rest of us, I just, anyways, we'll see where it
Okay.
goes.
Any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council? Okay, you can do your research. I think you have some solid ground to stand on and see what they say.
Yeah.
I think they're, you know, they're pushing something up the hill. They shouldn't be pushing that hard, and it's not like it would make
Yeah,
a significant difference to be 1 month behind. Morsha Waterfront Committee having meetings?
None of my committees have had meetings.
Okay. Erico Waterfront Committee had their last meeting, mainly a wrap-up meeting for what had to be done. The only thing that, two things I will comment on. There's the desire by the chair that it seems to have pathway lighting in Iroquois, similar to, not similar to Morrisburg, because they don't want the shiny fancy things, they just want lights on the path. So that's something that was suggested for the new committee to look at next year, if there is a committee, and they also recommended doing a refresh, like the recreation master plan has already suggested, so they're in there. It's up to the next committee to decide what they plan on doing with that. South Branch Community Fund. There's no meeting apparently. Carmen House. No archives meeting, no other meetings. Okay. Proposed amendment to 2022 council meeting schedule. Madam Clerk.
Sure. So as you'll recall, in accordance with the procedural bylaw, all regular meetings of council are scheduled on the second and fourth Monday of each month. And earlier this year, the former clerk presented you a calendar for the year. So given that this is a municipal election year, and as we just spoke about with the term of council ending on November 14th, the meeting schedule approved a council meeting set for November 7th. Due to potential issues in achieving quorum for that date, in consultation with the mayor, we are recommending to change the date of that meeting to Tuesday, November 1st, and that would be the final meeting of this term of council.
Okay. Does anybody have any issue with the 1st of November? It will be basically a wrap-up meeting of this council, win, lose, draw. Any final words or any new words you want to say that will be the time to do so. So then we might have some pops after that. Any comments? We're good? We're good, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Okay, David, Director of Parks and Recreation Facilities, you have a request for a key information report for the LEAF grant application.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in front of you tonight, council is a grant application with regards to staff's just looking for some direction from council on which route they're looking to go. A little bit of background on the Commonwealth Leaf Grant. If anybody didn't go to the website, I put a couple key notes there. So the applications are due November 15th. Generally you're applying for anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000. The grants are generally focused on a little bit of recreation and either growing a space for better recreation, improving a current asset to provide more recreation, that sort of idea. There's obviously, you can play within some different areas in there, but that's sort of the focus that they'll be looking for in the grant. Another aspect of the grant is they do look for some shares on Facebook, some community engagement, there's a place when you apply for members of the public to leave a comment or support your project, and these are also used by the people who are reviewing the grants to select the grants. So I put 3 options in my report for council to review today. Each report has a different twist to it, different pros and cons. I'll lead with, I'm gonna recommend option 1, which is the divider wall in the rec room. From my perspective, I think it fits the requirements of the grant the best. I think we might struggle a little, it might not get the most community engagement because it's not as sexy as doing something out in the parks. Putting a divider wall in the rec room on the 3rd floor is not as nice as upgrading a facility or upgrading a park. But with the aspects of utilizing space and stuff like that, I think it checks the most boxes for the grant application. And cost-wise, it likely is the cheapest of the 3, and this grant application isn't for a large sum of money. So that's just the recommendation from staff. So I'll go through the options though. So as I led into, recommendation number 23 in the Parks and Rec Master Plan, which I guess we can start implementing now, is to add a divider wall in the rec room, just right beside us. Currently, we offer a lot of programming in there, not always a program that requires the size of that room. I've included sort of our peak November schedule as in there. You can see we got about 20 classes in there. Currently on Wednesday nights, which is typically your best night to host recreation, we offer an art class in the lobby by the elevator because that's what we have for space. So if we're looking at putting a wall in there, now we have 2 spaces, so you can sort of expand our options and better utilize our recreation space. So that was option number 1. Option number 2 is the Erico outdoor rink. We have a brand new building there, but the rink itself it's starting to age. If you can see in the pictures, you got some wobbly boards, and I know with COVID, the guys were helping flood the rink last year, and I included one picture after rainfall. You can see there's an inch of rain in one spot and no rain in another spot. Doesn't make for great flooding conditions whenever you're 2 or 3 inches lower in one corner than another corner. Water doesn't like that. This option likely exceeds the budget there, and it was probably the hardest one to meet to the grant application, as you're kind of pushing the space is getting used by the community, but is it really growing the recreation in South Dundas if we're just maintaining an existing asset that's aging? But at the same time, it will garner plenty of community support from the people in Iroquois, so pros and cons. And the third option I threw in there mostly as an option, but I also put a little caveat in it there, as I think it would be an option that you'd hear around the council table would love to see implemented, which is a community kitchen. I'm not recommending this app mostly because Meals on Wheels has decided to not renew their lease within the Justice Building, which expires at the end of this month. They've donated their leftover fridge and dishwasher to us. They haven't finished moving out. I took a quick look in the space. It looks like we'll be able to offer some small classes in there, and with a little bit of upgrades next year, possibly have it as a rental facility or a place that we can offer some programming. It would be a good option if we wanted to come in on the smaller end of the grant, which sometimes can be a good idea. And then the other option that we could pivot with that one is to finish up at Matilda Hall. As you know, the bathrooms and that's all ready to go in January, February. We just finished doing the hall. There's sort of one aspect inside that hall that's still waiting. But again, $10,000 to $50,000 in a kitchen of that size isn't gonna go very far, and I'd hate to sort of cut back on what we could do in that space because we only have X dollars available to us, when maybe we should just wait and do that one properly, and then knowing that we have another kitchen coming. The only other thing I'll give is a couple stats from about the grant. So in 2021, there was 21 grants given out from the $300,000, so it's about $15,000 on average. You know, you might have had some for less and some for more. There were quite a few in Eastern Ontario. There were some in Glen Walter, some in Alexandria, Avonmore. And looking at their website, there's already 14 applications up for 2022 because they are public and you're looking for support. So if you wanted to go look at them, you could write your comments for support right now if you really wanted to. But so again, I'll just reiterate that my recommendation is to proceed with option 1, but looking for council's direction.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, and thanks for following up on this. When I saw it, and there are a lot of other municipalities that are taking advantage of it. Knowing that it's a grant every year, I think we should just keep applying year after year. I'm going to actually take your recommendation, and I mean, it seems like a decade ago when Shannon and I met with the staff at the time in Matilda Hall to look at the opportunity for a community kitchen. I think there are probably some grants that a community kitchen you could get through the rural type thing, because you're right, not knowing. So I don't want to rush it because there's a lot of people that want that. I think when I look at the top of the grant and it's saying that, where did it put it? Yeah, when it's support learning and capacity improvements for our communities, if you can just, when we go out to this, kind of give a really good quote about what the wall would do. If you're doubling up on kids programming, I mean, I've had my daughter have to do an art class in the hallway. It's kind of awkward. And I think it would really up our game as far as capacity programming, because I know that you have had some challenges booking different times and that type of thing. So while you're absolutely right, it's not the sexiest project, and it never thought I would say money towards a wall. But anyway, I'm going to take your recommendation. I think that's the one you should go for, because I think it speaks to it. It's something that will always get pushed off. And I think we could double up on our capacity. It'd be great. You could have multiple kids classes running at the same time. It would be fantastic. So I will support that. Option 1.
Councilor Lewis?
I support option 1 for the simple reason I have done work on that Erico outdoor rink in the past, and you said the grant's only for about $15,000. Well, $15,000 is not going to go very far in an outdoor rink, and $15,000 isn't going to go very far in Matilda Hall neither. So I will support option 1. I think that would most likely be the best one to go for. And 2 rooms are better than 1.
Councilor Mellon?
Well, when I looked through this, and personally, I think we're tied into option 1. Option 1's a good option. I liked option 3 to finish up the kitchen. Quick question, or the Meals on Wheels, are they just discontinuing altogether? Or where are they gonna go?
Go ahead.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, they've sort of outgrown the space. So they have been, since COVID, they've sort of moved to cooking at the JW Macintosh, and they're continuing to cook there. So it's sort of, they've outgrown the little kitchen that we have at
Yeah.
Justice Building, and they're serving more, unfortunately, they're serving more clientele.
The reality of the situation is, and my colleagues are right, I mean, we're not going to be able to, for what we would probably be successful in the grant application, the improvements to the kitchen or the outdoor rink, I don't think we can, well, we can't pre-approve a budget. We're in a lame duck situation. We can't say, yeah, let's do the outdoor rink and it's going to cost 30, 40, 50,000 and we get a $10,000 grant. We can't allocate money that we're.
We'll have to be realistic. How's that, Councilor Mellon?
Eh?
Be realistic then.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know, I don't think $100,000 would do the kitchen in Matilda
Oh,
if
no.
you really wanted to do it, so.
So I
I'm
think
just throwing a number at it.
right the way it is today, I would have to support option 1 just simply because of the fact that where we are in this term of council, next term of council, this time next year, they can have some money in their budget, but I don't think we can, this term of council should be touching option 2 or option 3 because it's going to cost us more than what we're probably going to get for the grant. And, okay,
Councilor
I'm
Wells?
done. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of echo what's going down the table. I would have leaned towards number 2 myself if we weren't in the election year, just because we have a brand new building up there and bring the thing up. But again, like, the applications are between 10 and 15. You said most of them are 15,000. So like Councilor Mellon said, you get in a situation where, sure, we got 10,000, we can't commit to it. And this here, you said the odds are better that we will get the money for this thing and it will give us more space. So I would have to agree with your recommendation too for number 1.
Okay, you're not gonna get an argument of me on number 1, just for the simple reason that makes the most logical sense for the amount of money we can receive and what we can do. I will suggest that to the next council that one of 2 goals they can have is, 1, fix up the rink in Erico to bring it up to a standard that's a bit better. We have a new building, you're right, so let's make the place look totally newer. And dealing with, well, I wouldn't say dealing with the kitchen in Matilda. It's a functional kitchen, but it's aged also, so it needs upgrade and to make something that's better. If we need to do a community kitchen and do that, I'd like to make sure that there's enough demand to make that work. That's the scary part of going that route. Everybody talks a good talk, and then all of a sudden you set it all up and there's nobody coming in to do the cooking and doing all that work. We'll just do it at home and not sell it on the side. Not saying there's no merit in it. I think there is. But I think you have to be a bit cautious on that one. I think make it for us, and if it works for everything else, that'd be great. But that's not our problem. That's another council's problem. So you have your direction. See what happens. No guarantee you're going to get it either. So. Okay, the last one is something that is, sorry, I will apologize to council, is last minute, because Mr. Etlin kind of went dark on me, and last week he rose. So, Jeff, do you know anything? Yeah, please come up, and because I believe you were on the site at the time.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the area that we're referring to, or that we're talking about, is along County Road 18 at Ridge Road. It's the property that is right on the corner. So every year we do roadside weed spraying. It's based off of, when the contractor's doing the spraying, it's based off of a road allowance, which should be 66 feet wide from fence line to fence line. And Ridge Road is a narrow 40-foot road allowance. So with that being said, the contractor went down, and this was the only location that it hit. There was a little bit of overspray, and it did land on some of Mr. Etlin's beans. So the question, the field is roughly 1,300 feet long. It goes from 3 rows of lost soybeans. In consultation with Councillor Mellon, they were at 30-inch centers. So with 3 rows, we're talking 5 feet. So 3 rows, 5 feet wide, for about 450 feet. And then from the 450 to about the 1,000-foot mark, it goes down to 2 rows. And then from the 1,000-foot to 1,300 feet, there's only 1 row lost. So we did follow up with, at the time, it was Mr. Lionar, who was our weed spraying kind of expert. And I did consult him, and he went out and had a look at it, and he came up with an estimated loss on soybeans damage. So then that was related back to our contractor, and through the contractor, a settlement was awarded. And here we are right now talking about this invoice that came in, which must be over and above the lack of settlement awarded by the contractor. So a $150 check was mailed to Mr. Etland on behalf of the weed spraying contractor, which between the contractor and Mr. Lionar, they felt was more than substantial based on the amount of non-acres that were damaged. So in rough math, we're looking at like 0.2 of an acre based off of the rows that were lost. In simple math, an acre is 208 feet long by 208 feet wide, which gives you 43,000 square feet. We're talking 1,300 feet long by, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that if there was 3 rows lost for the consistency of 1,300 feet, we're talking 6,500 square feet. That's 0.1, that's 0.15 of an acre that was lost because of the weed spraying. So that's the background story. I don't know if you want more of that, Mr. Mayor, or not.
No, I wanted to hear your side, and that.
But that's the
and you-
background story, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to throw numbers at you, but you might as well hear the true numbers. So that's where we're at.
Okay, Councilor Mellon, you want me to comment first before, have you seen the section at all, or you never had a
I
chance to
did
section?
see, Director Hyman showed me the pictures and, just for the council meeting. He has been compensated from the contractor. A check was mailed to Mr. Etland from the contractor.
Just, he did not cash the check. He
He didn't
trashed
cash it?
He trashed the check.
He
It
has
was not
to.
enough. That's why you have this. So you're sitting there squirreling around, so I did check it because when it was still growing, so I had an opportunity to look at it, and director's right. It's about 3 rows, but 3 rows, with 30 inches, you got to give the extra, so that's 90. You're over, you're close to 8 feet. Is it half an acre? It's a stretch. He claims he replanted it. That was the call I got just before council. It didn't seem to take, but that's chemical damage at its best, so I'm not sure if that was the smart on his part. Would you get that much yield, a normal yield there in that field? He's a fairly decent farmer, and a normal yield in the middle of the field would probably be about 175. That'd be a good yield.
That'd be a good yield.
But I've seen his beans. He's done well, even if you give him 1.5.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 50 bushels. I don't like going tons, but this is what we're working in. But the number he uses for tonnage price on beans is real. That is about today's price going into broad grain.
Higher than that.
Hey, that's a little higher, but it's 660 there, so he's got to truck it there. Well, you got to drive it there. As you know, it still takes fuel and time and energy to get it there, so. But he's certainly not getting, you're not getting a ton off half an acre. You wouldn't get a ton there either, because that's on the outside rows. I'm not trying to wiggle out of it. I do believe, though, he deserves more than what he got from the initial response. Now, technically, would be fair to say, as much as, the contractor is the contractor and they are responsible, we are who they are contracted by, correct? It wasn't the counties. Counties are kind of involved, or is it the counties that do the contract?
No, the counties, through Mr. Mayor, the county spearheaded the tender document.
Yeah.
And we jumped on as a
Yeah.
participant of the tender.
Okay, so it's one big loop, so it goes back to the county, in theory.
She's a roundabout, yeah.
Okay, so if there's damage, the county is the one responsible. If he wanted to go for more, he'd have to go back to the county to do it?
He has, through Mr. Mayor, he has spoken with the counties, and they are standing strong on the dollar value that was initially sent.
Okay, I guess I did say he can bring it to this council. I guess, you know what, the dollar value, in my opinion, was low. So I would support in something more, not what he has on his invoice, though. I would never go that high. If I got that, I'd be happy, but I wouldn't be happy with $120, that's for sure, not in today's marketplace. It's just too much, you know, and you have to relate it, you know, it's hard to relate. Some farmer gets half an acre off a 50-acre field smoked off, but it's all, you know, it's all product. It's all something he worked for to plant. I know that we can get into the semantics if he's planting our road allowance, but at least he keeps it clean that way. So that's you can say, well, you shouldn't plant there, but then it's all wheat. So he is planting close, and he's not as close as some others. I know there's others that if they can plant the road, they'd plant the road.
They're right up to
On
it.
County Road 5, they'd plant the road if they could plant it.
They're right up to it, Mr. Mayor, you are correct.
So I don't know if what we can do legally, or I'm not saying we have to write the check, but I think we should at least support them in at least a higher payment, send it to the counties and see what they say. And if I was, you know, what's your thoughts on a number? No, you.
Oh, I thought
You,
you were
farmer,
getting-
you,
Yeah,
before I say it.
well,
If you lost half an acre of beans, how much would you want today? I guess that's the way you look at it. What would you want today? That's the way I look at it.
I sold beans at $6.86 this morning. But $6.60 is probably realistic. He could have had a previous contract. If I lost a half an acre of beans, if I had a total of $300 or $400, I think I'd be happy.
Okay. So he needs, in your opinion, need double, at least more than double what he's got. At 120 we send him?
150.
150. So he needs at least double that to make it more fair.
I would like, personally, I would bring it up to 300. I would support going after the counties to bring it up to 300 as a contractor.
Okay. Councilor Wells, thoughts?
I'm just gonna go on the, your guys' recommendation. Haven't farmed for 40 years, so.
No, and I know
And
we're.
like, okay, there's two things about, he did get his beans sprayed, so he should be compensated. But also, you see it where you drive by and they're planting in our allowance. So,
But there's no weeds then. Didn't need to spray.
but,
I understand that.
yeah,
that's some-
the contractor should have due
Should've been-
diligence, there's no weeds there, why shut the sprayer off and go buy it and start it up again? So, at the end of the day, I'm good with $300.
You think 3 is satisfactory? Like, I mean, the bill is 818. We're not even hitting half. So
Well,
3 is.
I understand he's looking for more. You always ask for more and hope for something, but
I mean,
I'm
right,
trying to be fair. We're sitting at the other side, trying to be
fair.
quasi-farmers, quasi-looking after municipality all at once.
Well, if you think that 3, I mean, obviously, I would defer. I mean, when I look at the way the bill, the replanting and all that stuff, I think we should just be looking at the replacement of the crop that was damaged. Like, that's what I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're comfortable with 3, I would, yeah. 3 is half, but I would probably edge it. I don't know. If I put in a bill for 800 and you said 3, just take away, it could be cats or dogs or whatever, I would probably not be okay with 3. I might be better with 4, just saying, if depending on how long you want to go back and forth on this.
I can go with 350, but
There you
that's
go.
as far as I'll go on this.
I'll go with 350 then.
Since I am not a farmer, I have to ask you, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Mellon, if you had property that was sprayed and your soybean or corn died, would you not know better than to replant it right away?
Some you can, some you can't. This is a can't.
I would settle for 300.
You're still at 350?
I can live with 350, yes. So we're gonna go back to the counties and through their contract or their insurance, like, this shouldn't come out of our pocket, should it?
I'll let them figure that out.
Okay.
I don't know where all this, to me, the pocket it should come out of is the contractor.
And I agree with what Councillor Wells said, because I've seen them, like, I mean, if they could chisel plow through the middle of your road, they'd plant there. But you're right, Mayor Bybels, it's clean, you know, the road, but,
I only think our employees would have to take one pass and then it'd be all the mow that would have to be done on that road allowance. It's a narrow road allowance too, so you gotta look at it that way too. It's not the standard wide one when,
and I guess in defense of the contractor, he's come along, they got their boom out there, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, bang, you know, all of a sudden, he's
well,
not-
it starts at the county road, so he could have seen what he was doing.
yeah, I mean.
He started literally at 18 and kept going till the barn, and then he decided, oh, I better quit, because the rest is all mowed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I wish I was worth $120 an hour, but I don't think I am, but anyways. 350, I think, is fair. I mean, let's face it, it would put a sour taste in my mouth, probably yours, Mayor Bybels, if you had beans, even though it's a limited amount that we're killing off. Hell, I let the water do it this year, so I didn't have to have spray to do it. But anyway, I can live, if you're thinking 350, I said 3, I can go with 350. But I think that's more than fair.
It is more than fair, yeah. Well, I mean, 330, that's half that ton, done. Okay. Hey, you haven't seen me in an auction sale, sir.
Do we hear 320?
Okay, can we send a letter to the counties, tell them that we have this invoice and we feel that, this council feels 330 is the right number? And then we'll see where he goes. If counties say no and he wants to continue on, then it's up to him. We've done all we can do, yes.
Just to say one more comment
Yeah.
before we start pushing the upper tier a bit there. I don't know how much we save by joining them in this. I'm assuming it's quite a bit. So I would hate to, over a couple $100 next year, whoever's sitting here, you go down and say, well, we like to join in on your tender process, and they say, you know what, we don't want you this year. Just not saying it would go there, but it could. Very easily.
We've directed staff that request, and we'll let them
Okay,
massage
no.
whatever they have to do. How's that?
Just,
And if they don't, and if you can't make it work, then you send Alfred a nice letter and say, you got what you got, and then it's up to him what he does after that.
good enough?
Okay, no notice of motion. Thanks, Jeff. No notice of motion, Madam Clerk.
No, they're not.
Ratification bylaw then, please.
Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2022-123, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
All heard in motion, those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Before I ask the clerk to read the last motion, I'd like to thank council tonight for their work. I'd like to thank staff for their input tonight, and I'd like to thank the audience for participating in democracy in South Dundas. Go ahead, please.
Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Mellon, that council now adjourn to meet again at the call of the chair.
All heard in motion, those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries.